Hello PlayStation fans! We asked you to suggest hidden gems and overlooked games on the PS1. These were some of our favourite responses. First up is a game that apparently has some very passionate fans. Andrew said, Team Buddies is the most amazing game on the PS1, a mix between a real-time strategy and action game. If you need to have one game on the PS1, then it's this. Harry added, this is truly the holy grail of PS1 games. And Stuart said, the ultimate masterpiece. Alistair summed it up by saying, I came here to make sure this game was represented. We daren't say a bad word against Team Buddies. Mark said, a little game called Street Racer that me and my mate played to death. It was like a wacky destruction derby game with odd characters who all had silly attacks. Very good times indeed. Stuart agreed. Yes! I spent many hours hammering this game with a mate. Definitely underrated. Cheers guys! Brandon commented, Jedi power battles. I always enjoyed being able to play as all the Jedi from episode 1. The multiplayer co-op was my favourite part. Lots of people agreed, however Tiago gives a little indication as to why it may have been overlooked. He said, the level design and the camera angles at some parts of the game were completely broken, but the co-op mode was a blast. Next is a game that never even got a European release, so the only people who played it here were those naughty people who had chipped PS1s. Like Greg, who said, Parasite Eve, fantastic horror RPG from Squaresoft, now Square Enix. Lovely little factoid for you there guys. With some truly disturbing moments that left me reeling back in the day, would absolutely love to see a remake in the future. Some of the disturbing moments Greg is referring to is the dog transformation, and the birth of this demon baby thing. Yep, that's enough to put you off kids for life. Daryl got in touch to say, a weird one, but Wildnine. Loved that game as a kid and for some reason it creeped me out. Excellent. Andrew added, Wildnine was awesome for the music and the fact that your mission was to find as many ways to beat up the robots and kill them. Jordan said, I literally didn't think anyone else would have known or even made my suggestion. I love this game. And there was some very high praise in a reply from Jesse. He simply said, literally the most underrated game of all time. Big words there, Jesse, but thanks for getting in touch. James loves Silent Bomber. Just ridiculous, hectic, explosive fun with a mad soundtrack. I absolutely loved it, as it was really unique at the time. Dan agreed, such a fun game, so many choices on how to blow up. And Bradley summed it up nicely by saying, blowing up on that game felt so crisp. We get it, lots of you love blowing up. Andrew got in touch to say, Overboard, the pirate ship battles were very funny. Enemies would drop into the sea and ask you for help. This game was a relatively low-key release from the makers of Lemmings and Wipeout. James also loved it, as he commented, oh god, this was great, I forgot all about it. We loved this game, but for some reason, it massively undersold on release. John said, Future Cop LAPD was awesome. Mechs that can change between cop car and bipedal mech, and rockets and bullets, and yep, this game was a winner. Tommy agreed, saying, what a brilliant game that was. I'd love to see a remake. As did Eden, who said, I seem to be the only person who knew what it was where I lived. Bradley, what a shout this is, my friend. Toy Story 2. Loads of fun little open world levels. Absolutely loved it growing up. Mike replied, I loved it too. I recently discovered it was made by Traveller's Tales, who went on to do so many great LEGO games. And Clifford still loves it. I still have to play it a couple of times a year. My absolute favourite game. Gary said, Legend of Legaia. Solid story with a great battle system. My favourite RPG of all time, but constantly overshadowed by other titles in the genre, such as Final Fantasy VII and VIII and Legend of Dragoon. Johnny agreed, a hidden gem, as it was definitely one of the best PS1 games. Kieran wanted to give Heart of Darkness a shout out. My friends hadn't played it and they didn't know what the game was. My most memorable game on the PlayStation and definitely underrated. Jack said, a 2D side-scrolling puzzle game with a fantasy story. Way too hard to complete as a kid, but bought this again as an adult a couple of years back and it still plays well now. Mark added, I 1000% agree. Chris recommended Tombi. I had it on one of the old PlayStation demo discs and loved it so much that I bought it. A really odd game, but the graphics, vibrant colours and sounds were what made it special, plus the endless amount of pig pummeling. It was called either Tombi or Tomba, depending on when you lived. Nick also loved it. I think it was called Tomba in the States and Tombi in Europe. Hope you've still got a copy, worth a few bob now. As did Seth. The sprites and the levels were great. Flew under most people's radars, I think.
Hope I don't bring my name.
Andy got in touch to say, Jackie Chan, Stuntmaster. No one ever seems to remember it, yet I spent hours playing this game. Great childhood memories. It seems a few people did remember, however, much to Andy's delight. And Tommy agreed. A great shout, Andy. The cartoony graphical style and button mashing mechanics were absolutely amazing on this.
Good Lord, I thought you were dead. Yeah, and a shiny medal for still being alive.
And finally, there were multiple posts regarding this gem. Liam said, Hogs of War. Absolutely fantastic game. I don't feel it has had enough appreciation throughout the years and is massively underrated. Bazza loved it too, saying, Hogs of War was my absolute favourite video game. And so did Nathan. I don't see it mentioned very often, but for me, it was one of the best games I enjoyed playing when I was younger, and I still love playing it to this day. Rick Mile made it even better. Sorry. Do you agree with any of these suggestions? Let us know in the comments and feel free to suggest even more PS1 underrated gems for part 2. Thanks for watching.
I regret nothing!
For more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to make sure you don't miss any videos in the future. Cheers!